Okay. Welcome to
Crazy, Classy, Colored.
So this is our second episode. And so today we're going to be talking about our love lives, but in a more intimate way, and the challenges that we've had within our own lives and how we've been able to overcome those challenges, and how in a way we're still dealing with some of the effects of what we've gone through and what we've learned and how we can help other people, I think. So we're just going to explain a little bit about toxic relationships. And I feel like today, turning on Instagram and seeing how many people have wanted to kill themselves. Tamar Braxton, me and Evelyn were talking about that on the way here. She tried to commit suicide.
Who is that?
Tamar Braxton. I don't know how to explain her. She's like a
Tony Braxton's
She's
sister.
Tony Braxton's little sister, but like
they had a reality show.
Yeah,
together.
very famous in the Black community.
And then she was on a talk show, right?
Yeah, she was on The Real. And then talking about women of color being disrespected in the workplace, they kind of just fired her in a very public way and never gave an explanation as to why they fired her. And it just became this whole really nasty thing where they said she was too loud as a Black woman. And she was just too much for TV. So they just fired her without telling her. But then she got divorced. You know, she has one son. She's dating a guy. And she said that she tried to commit suicide last night. And I feel like toxic behavior, toxic relationships, just in general, you should check in on your friends and your family for sure. You never know what people are going through. And I feel like a lot of people internalize their struggles and what they're going through because they feel as though they're going to be judged for what they say. They're going to be judged for the decisions that they make. And I think it's very easy to tell people advice when you're from the outside looking in, but take a minute to have a little bit of compassion for other people and understand that life is not as easy as you think it is. And just every little thing that you might think of, they're thinking of times 10 and trying to come up with a reason as to how they're going to get out of that situation. But they might not have the friends or family support. So, yeah. So I feel like I'm going to let Claudia go first and explain a little bit about her life and her relationships. And me and Evelyn might cut in here and there. But, yeah, Claudia, the floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely. Well, instead of going into the nitty and gritty of what happened in my toxic relationship, I'm going to more talk about why I left and what made me leave. And so I was in my toxic relationship for about 4 years. And throughout that time, there was a lot of lying, manipulation, mental and emotional abuse, and obviously, there was a lot of drugs and alcohol involved, mainly from my partner at that time. And it was really hard. I think when you are in a toxic relationship, you get so deep in it. And I have to say, this was the first relationship where I fell completely in love, head over heels, was willing to risk it all for this person. And I think at that time, I was really turning a blind eye to a lot of behavior that I would have found just not okay because I love this person. So I was willing to tolerate with things a lot, his behavior. And I think at the time when I first started seeing red flags in our relationship was when he was partying a lot and drinking, and it was really bad. We were living in Santa Barbara, so at the time there was a lot of distractions that kind of made me turn a blind eye, made it seem acceptable, oh, this is just a lifestyle and we're going to be moving to Sacramento soon and things are going to change.
But you also were Santa Barbara, I feel like, is the hippie cool life, and then you guys also transitioned and traveled together.
Definitely. So I think that was a reason why too I put up with a lot of the BS, because we had a lot of those experiences. When you invest so much time into a person, it's hard to let go. You just pull yourself through it. And so like when we moved to Sacramento, I was like promised the moons and the stars and a happy life. And I kid you not, we moved to Sacramento, and like 2 days into moving in, I found him talking to guys on Craigslist. A month later, I found him sneaking out of the house, like bad behavior that was kind of happening in Santa Barbara, but it just completely exploded when we moved to Sacramento. And then once I kind of started getting really angry about that, there was a lot of resentment that I built up. So when all of that resentment and all of that hatred kind of festered inside, he started acting out, like even more so. And that's when things started getting violent. And so I think during my relationship, this person had really beat me down and made it seem like that I was the best that he was ever going to get. And I mean, and I believed that for a long time. Like I was like, I love this person. I'm never going to have a connection with anybody like this before. So you put up with it, and it really lowered my self-worth and my everything, how I viewed myself.
So when I got to know you a little bit, I feel like the Claudia that I knew then and the Claudia that I know now is completely different. But I feel like when I look at my friends, I feel like maybe you're a little bit different in the fact that maybe your dad wasn't involved in your life maybe as he should have been. You know what I mean?
I think that toxic relationship that I had with my dad in the beginning of my life definitely manifested itself in my love life. A lot of things I didn't resolve with then, it continued on. And it's true.
No, but I feel like it's not. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Ev? I mean, I feel like maybe for me and you, it's a little bit different, but I feel like even girls who have the best dads, like still find themselves in these situations.
Yeah. I think that's true too.
That's true.
I feel like parents feel like they're doing the best they can, but I feel like if they spent less time worrying about the small petty BS stuff, that when you look back at it, it doesn't really matter. If they spent more time realizing that, like, you do, I feel like, have dreams for your kids to go to college and get a great education and be smart and do things with their lives. But when you're a teenager, when you're a young adult, those things you don't really think about, and you don't value them the way that you value your friends and fitting in and being accepted and having a love life. And if they spent more time trying to craft you into a young adult who learns from their mistakes, who
is confident.
Yeah, and strong in themselves, then your children would find themselves in less situations like that. But yes, keep going. That's just what I feel.
Yeah, and however I rationalize the relationship, that's where I was in that headspace. And when you're in a manipulative relationship and in a toxic relationship, they make everything about them. So they pull you away from your friends and your family and support. So when I moved to Sacramento and all of these things were happening at that time, I definitely felt extremely alone. Like my family, all of them live in Los Angeles. I had no friends. I just started school at Sac State. Like I felt like I had to be in this relationship because I was comfortable and it was easy. But then things started getting violent. And I remember one time he didn't come home one day, and I just knew, I'm like, he is out with somebody. I just know it. You just feel it in your gut. And so he came back the next morning, like at 1 p.m, and he was completely wasted. And I was just fed up. I'm like, I'm done. I don't even care who you're with. Whatever you're saying is lies. And so at that time, I said, I don't want to talk right now. I just want my own space. Completely didn't respect that. And he had like cornered me in my bathroom, and he was getting in my face, and he was yelling at me. And then in self-defense, I pushed my chest up against him, like back up. And then he punched me in my face. And at that time, I just, fight or flight, I just said, get out now. Because I've seen my ex get violent with people in the past, and he has the capability to fuck someone up. A man, imagine what he can do to me. Yeah. And when men are so passionate, like about their, I don't know. Anyway, I like ran out, and I was so scared. I had like went to the street and started throwing up because I was just terrified, and I just didn't know what to do. And so but the thing is, I went back to him. And I think I made up so many, he made excuses, but I also made so many excuses for him too. And then it even took another time for him to get physically violent with me. This time I was more scared for my life because he has ADHD, and at that time he was starting to take his Adderall again, and he was overdosing, and he turned into a madman. Like, just, it was a really scary situation. So that was the first time I had moved out, and I was really trying to move on with my life. And then he came back again, and we got, involved again. And then after that, it took a lot of life experiences, a lot of uplifting experiences, such as meeting Nia. That was an uplifting experience. Going to go visit my sister in Italy was the first time I was able to have an experience on my own. And so after I had all of these life changes and new experiences, I knew, I'm like, you know what?
I was a life change?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm like, you know what?
Up.
This person is no longer serving my higher purpose in life. And it's time to go, and it's time to move on.
I just got mad at Claudia a lot because I thought she was crazy.
Can I ask you something? You said you didn't have a support group, right? Like, you didn't have friends or anything that were with you through that time?
No, I had just moved to Sacramento. Right. Just started school.
From your perspective, how would you want a friend to respond to that? Because I know that a lot of people, when they are in toxic relationships, their friends cut them off because they're like, oh, I don't want to enable them, or, what do you do? What would you have wanted from a friend? From a friend?
Yeah. This girl, just to say it how it is.
Yeah.
Say the uncomfortable truth. And I think at the time, after I had broke up with my ex, I finally heard from my high school friends, their perspective, yeah, I hated him. I couldn't stand him. I'm like, why didn't you say anything?
Yeah. Well, I was never afraid to say anything to you.
No, you were never. She kept it 100%. So I think as a friend, I would just want honesty.
Right.
Is everything okay?
And I think when you're in that situation, you have to think about people's families, their close friends, the people that really care about them. How would you feel if you went to bed at night knowing that someone is in a toxic relationship, yet they're not, I'm not afraid to hurt Claudia's feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we get into it all the time. But, wow.
In a good way. It's a good trait to have.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of people, and I'm not afraid of what people have to say, because human nature is people are always going to talk.
Yeah.
But I feel as a friend, you should always think about, how would I want my friend to save my life if they had an opportunity to do so? And when I saw her, it didn't make sense, because here we were in the middle of Sac State trying to graduate, trying to get a good grade in a class that was really hard. Our teacher was playing psychological warfare with us every day on her test. We all had her. We all know that she'll gas you up and be like, the test is going to be so easy.
Give you a study guide.
Give you a study guide, make you think it's going to be the easiest shit you've ever taken in your life. And then you get there and you're dumbfounded because you're
it's things you've never even
read, never even saw. And so for me, it was at that moment, here we are as women of color, going to school, getting an education, trying to do better for ourselves. And I think because I was going through things in my own personal life, I just saw someone who needed, they needed help. And I feel the audience doesn't know that Claudia is really becoming her own. When I first met her, she was not capable of saying it like it is.
No.
Just very let people push her around, let people talk shit. And I was just this is crazy. This is crazy town. So I just went up to her one day and I was you're in an abusive relationship and you're going to leave. And that's that.
Definitely.
And that literally was what happened.
Yeah. And I feel getting out of those situations, you go through your own healing process. And I don't know if you'll ever heal from, honestly, I reflect back on some really wonderful memories, and it makes me sad. Wow, I really did care about that person. But at the same time, you almost feel you have to block them out of your mind, like internal sunshine of the spotless mind, just completely take out that memory, because like, what purpose did they serve you? And then the first thing you think of, like, well, the purpose that they served me was knowing what is right and what is wrong in a relationship, and knowing when to let go and move on.
You know, I think it's interesting that you said that when you think back to that relationship, you think of the good times. Because I remember one time when I was struggling, I'm the type of person that tries to Google, like, I need to Google how to stop feeling like this, or like why this is happening.
Definitely.
And I remember I Googled one time and it said that humans, we as people are meant to try to maintain our connections and our friendships and stuff, you know? We're not meant to break them off. So in your brain, when you think that someone's leaving or that something you did is pushing them away, you don't think of the bad times. Like, your brain will only remind you of the good times when you're heartbroken. Yeah. So it makes it harder for you to move on. And I was like, okay, that makes me feel better. I'm like, it's just my brain finessing me right now. And I have always said this, even when I'm like upset or depressed, you know, because I go through it. Yeah. There's a sanity in knowing that you're insane. You know, like, you know why things happen and you know why you feel this way. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it makes you feel like, even though you do feel this way and you are thinking this way, you know, there's a reason for it. And that reason makes you feel like you can ignore those feelings. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think you need to introduce kind of a little bit about your situation.
My toxic relationships?
Yeah.
I think I haven't had very many. Well, I've had two. One of them I thought I was going to take to the grave. One of them was
when ride or die, man.
Yeah, when I was 16, I was seeing a guy that was 19. I know.
Well, me too. I was dating a thug. I thought I was like really living the thug life. It was out of control.
I was like, I cannot tell anybody, because you know when you're a teenager, sometimes you're like, I don't want people to think I'm a slut. I don't want.
You're right.
I was like, no, I don't like boys. Like, and yeah, I saw him for my whole life. I knew him my whole life. Yeah, I was basically, and he was friends with a family member. We'll just say it like that. And they were like best friends. Mm-hmm. And that's how we met. And that happened for awkwardly until I turned 18.
So you guys were friends?
No, we like, he was like, it was a relationship basically. Okay. And he was very toxic. He did not like when I talked to other people. He was very scared that I was going to tell people that, you know, we were kind of seeing each other. And yeah, when I turned 18, he was like, you know, this was kind of wrong. Like, maybe.
What was wrong? The relationship?
I'm like, is it because I was a teen bop and you were 19? I mean, it's like, but yeah, he was he was also always getting in fights. He did a lot of drugs, drinking. When we would go out, like, as a group or whatever, he did not like when I would be around other people, even though it was like illogical, because it's like I wasn't doing anything, and it was just, if someone was just standing next to me, he'd be like, why are you standing there? Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I think that was my first introduction to toxic relationships. I was way too young, and I don't know. There's something really weird about college people dating high school kids. Yeah. And when I was that young, I didn't realize that. I was like, oh, I'm just a little more mature, you know?
You thought you were cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm cute. Like,
yeah, definitely. I would have thought the same thing.
Yeah, and I only told like a handful of people, but I thought I was so cool, and it was disgusting. And then the second really toxic relationship that I was in, it was with a guy that he had a girlfriend, but he was in an open relationship.
Okay, with her.
Yes. And at first I was resistant because we were more like friends. We hadn't been introduced, and we were like, oh, we have a lot in common. And we were talking a lot for like 2 or 3 weeks. I don't even remember. And then someone came up to me, I think it was one of his friends, and was like, hey, like, you know, he has a girlfriend. And I was like, yeah, right. And then they were like, no, he has like a girlfriend. And then I was like, oh, shit. So then I confronted him about it. He goes, no, you don't understand. It's an open relationship. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you tell me, first of all, so I can make my own decisions?
Right.
And he's like, when you tell someone that, they don't want to talk to you. They they shut down, and it's like, it's better if you have feelings first. And then I'm like, oh, great, a trap.
A trap, literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh my
And
gosh.
why don't people ever respect the fact that they should give you the chance to make your own decision?
Right. That's a really good point.
That brings me back to the video that you showed me yesterday.
Oh, yes. So, little side note, everyone knows I'm a little bit of a
Yeah.
Jesus freak. I'll have to show you later, Ev. And there's this pastor named Creflo Dollar, and I think his church is in Atlanta. And just, us being, Claudia being in a relationship, me and Evelyn not, I feel like my faith has been the one steady thing. I'll let Evelyn get back to her story. But basically, he just has this whole video about asking questions while you're dating people. And it's the funniest thing because he just goes like, is this your name? Is this your real name? Do you have a job? Yeah. How much do you make? You know what I mean? Like the stupidest questions, but the questions that we all overlook because we don't want to be invasive in someone's life.
Right.
But if you really talk to somebody, then you should respect them enough to make the decision of, are they going to go down a path that they don't want or go down a path that they do want. But go on with your story.
I agree with that. I had a business law professor one time that told me individually, she goes, Evelyn, because I know you, I'm going to give you advice. And I was like, okay. And she goes, if anyone ever tells you that they love you, you need to take one step back, look them in the eye and ask, what do you mean by that? And I was like, whoa. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
because makes sense.
Love is just a 4-letter word.
Yeah. They're like, she said, people will just tell you things.
Yep.
To get you to do things, and you need to, ask questions, basically. But yeah, this guy it's like it's like an embarrassing time for me because I should have known better in a way. And I think I was just caught in a situation where, first of all, I wasn't doing very well mentally. I was very depressed, and family deaths and stuff, and I was trying to kind of numb myself. I had just moved with strangers, and I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. And I remember the first time, like, one of my friends was like, let's go out, and drinking and then the drugs and stuff, and I'm like, this is a great distraction. I'm gonna do this every day, day and night, So that's what I was doing when I met him, and he was like that too, because he had some things going on, and he was like numbing himself, I think. I don't know what was going on with him, and he would like push me to drink too, and drugs and everything. And he would also try to manipulate me because he'd be telling me that, oh yeah, I actually do love you. And he goes, I think I would want to be with you instead of her, but that you lived far away, blah, blah, blah. And at one point he would tell people that I was his girlfriend. People didn't even know that he had a girlfriend because he was always out with me and we were always together. It's like, it was like a really weird, like BFF / like it was really awkward. And I got to the point where I stupidly was like, oh yeah, I do like you. And it's like making excuses for myself, for him, for his behavior. And I was here one time in Sacramento, and he called me, and my friend called me too, that they wanted to go to drag night, both together, not together, but at the same time. And I was like suggesting you guys should go together. Mm-hmm. And when they went the next day, I didn't get a phone call, no text, and I was like, whatever. And then they went again, and I got the same no phone call, no text till the next day. And then I remember I visited like a few days later, I don't remember. And we were like all hanging out, and the next day after I had, spent the night there, my friend pulls me aside and he goes, I need to tell you something. And then he starts sobbing, and he's like, when we went to drag night, I guess we went back to his place and we were laying in bed together, and I didn't want anything to happen at first. No. Yeah. And then he goes, but then, one thing led to another, and yeah, we hooked up, we slept together. And I was like, oh my God. This was like my BFF, like since we were little. I was his beard for like 2 years with his grandma. Okay. Cause he does drag. So yeah. Mm-hmm. would have done anything for this friend, you know? And then he starts sobbing and I'm like, no, it's fine, you know, don't cry. We're not going to let a guy get between us, blah, blah, blah. And I was trying to be, you know, a supportive friend for some wild reason. Like, I was like, at first, to me, it kind of felt like he was a victim because of how he was crying to me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I felt bad. I'm like, oh, and then you had to hang out with us and we were just together and you had to sleep in the living room. Like, what did you hear? And he seemed really apologetic at first. And then I was like, no, it's fine. Like, it's not like you're going to do it again. Are you guys going to do it again? Kind of like, I don't know why I was like weirdly trying to joke about it. And he goes, I don't know, girl, maybe. Like, his tears stopped. Like, he turned into another person. He goes, I don't know, girl, maybe. And then he gets up and he goes, yeah, he was a total, and like, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I hate my life right now. I want to go home. And I was like, ha ha ha. Like, I was like, you know, like, this is crazy. Oh my God. Like, looking to the side. And then he's like, I think I'm going to head out. And then he leaves and I'm sitting there like devastated. And I'm just like, why would my friend do this to me? And then my cousin walks in and she's like hugging me and we're both like, oh. And everybody else, I got a lot of weird mixed feelings about it. Some people were like, well, who cares? He was in a open relationship. You should have known this, like all this. And I get all that. But what I don't understand is how my friend, who I've known since we were babies, do this to me. Because if Nia liked someone, even a little bit, I would never even flirt with them.
Well, you know who I like, but you would never go out with him because, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Like, I'm like, this is my friend. Even if she has a tiny little crush on someone, I'm not going to talk to them.
It's called loyalty.
Let alone lay in a bed with them and think that even that part was innocent. That's weird to me. And that friend stopped talking to me like a month later because I came back to school and he had a housewarming party and I did not show up. To this day, he does not talk to me.
That's okay.
Because of that.
Oh my God.
And that's a toxic friendship right there. Yeah. He would always belittle me, but in a funny way.
You just identified two relationships, toxic friendships, where your friends manipulate you into believing that they love you and they have your best interest at heart, but they don't ever show it. Yeah. And then you have toxic relationships where men manipulate you into thinking that what they're doing is great because they're the man.
Right.
And women become subservient to that, like, ideology that, like, men are great. And, like, whatever he's saying is powerful and it's true.
You almost expect bullshit.
I feel like for me, you know, my toxic relationship it's always been like that. So I feel like a lot of people have always asked me why I never posted my ex on social media, why I just lived a very private life. It's just because I feel like I was super embarrassed to have found myself in that situation and not know how to get out of it. And because of it, I've, like, changed as a person. Like, I'm mentally devastated and destroyed, but it's one of those things where I feel like I'm such a strong person and I've been through so much that I let this one situation take over my entire life. And sometimes I feel like I get so depressed and have so much anxiety, I can't see my way out of it. And my ex, we met on Tinder when I was 18. And he was 5 years older than me. And he was 23 at the time. And his mom lived here. And he lived in New York. Was going to school in New York. And I just thought, how lucky am I to have met a guy who's 5 years older than me. I met him on the internet. And no, we never met in person for 6 months. And I convinced my best friend who lived in Miami at the time to get on a plane and let's lie to everyone and go to New York for Thanksgiving and just have like a New York minute, you know? And that's exactly what we did. And I remember this feeling of flying to New York and just feeling so twisted because he texted me and told me, I don't want to do this because whatever his excuse was. And I said, no, like, you just convinced me to lie to my family, my friends, like, we're going to meet up with each other. Like, I didn't just literally get on a plane for nothing.
In another state.
Exactly. And instantly, you know, it was like a fairy tale. Honestly, I was crying in the backseat of the Uber, the Uber driver thought I was going to get sex trafficked. Like, he just couldn't, like, he just didn't even know what was going. Yeah, he was just like
what's that TV show called? Catfish?
Catfish.
He was probably praying for you.
He was praying for me. Like, he's like, have you ever seen what he looks like? And I was like, I've never actually seen his face. I've only seen like the ceiling of his room. And so it turned out to be great, and we had a really good time. But I started seeing red flags like instantly when I was there. I would say not probably the first day, but probably like by the second or third night, some shit was starting to like get cray-cray. So he told me about his ex-girlfriend, or, you know, who knows if they were ever together or not. None of us can figure that out. But her bobby pins were by his bed. And so when I'm lying down in the bed and I'm just like, well, I didn't take off any bobby pins, and I've been here for the last like 3 days. So where the hell did these bobby pins come from? And then we were going to the store because he wanted to make brownies. And strange. Brownies for brownies. But her Timberlands, like, they had identical Timberlands, like, next to each other, each color.
Oh my
And so
God.
I was just like, well, who the hells are these? And he was like, oh, they're mine. And I was like, yeah, motherfucker, your foot grew.
He layers them.
Your foot grew in a day? Okay. And so, but that's like the 18-year-old, like, naive, like, oh, he's like, oh, his foot really did grow. And I wanted him, I remember, like, we went to this store called Flight Club, and he really wanted these shoes. So I bought the shoes stupidly. And this is how I got into a whole $25,000 debt that I, for a credit card, just buying him things and just like basically being like a sugar mama, but like we're in the reverse. Like, I'm the 18-year-old, have no money, and you're like literally taking advantage of me. And it just started getting really weird. And then over the years, the abuse got more and more. Like, it got more, like, it was even stronger than it was before. Because I think before it was just mental. But then once he knew that I was old enough, and obviously we were in a relationship, so he knew who I was as a person. He knew he could pop off at me because I'd pop right back off to him. And I remember we would fight about this girlfriend all the time. Like, it was the biggest fight in the last 7 years of our relationship about this one. And Evelyn and Claudia are smiling because they know exactly what I'm talking about. This person does not go away. This person could be dead and she would still exist. And I remember looking at him a couple weeks ago in San Francisco and saying, the only person that doesn't know you and this person are in love with each other are you and this person. And the freedom that I'm giving you and the freedom I'm giving myself today is by not even being upset anymore. You should go and you should treat her better than you've treated me. And you should be a better man to her than you've been to me, because she truly loves you, because she's put up with your BS for all of these years between going back and forth with me and her. And I feel like many girls, especially women of color, they put up with situations. I know for me, and I will speak for myself, I feel like we're always competing against white girls. Mm-hmm. And the white girls get the guys that they want. They don't have to think about it. Like it every time.
Every time.
They like the guy likes them back. But when you're a person of color, there's so many different avenues that you could go through in your mind. Like, am I a fetish? Is he after me because he just wants to have an experience? Does he want me as a number? There's a whole million.
Token.
Yeah, like a token.
When you want those guys that want to be woke.
But they use you like, oh, my girlfriend's black, my girlfriend's Latina,
Yeah.
And so for me, Claudia got to hear a little bit of the verbal abuse. She'd always known that. We can take that out, right?
His name?
Can we take his name out? Okay. We're just going to have to cut that part.
Jason.
I just said his name.
You're talking about Jason?
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah.
We need to take out, I just said Jason's name. But what was I saying? I just blanked.
We were talking about when you guys went to San Francisco,
right,
and how we were FaceTiming, and I really got a full-on experience on how he treated you. With just the utmost disrespect, would say like, you're dumb, like,
you're just a dumb bitch.
You're calling you
dumb.
a clown.
a clown.
Oh yeah,
bozo.
he called her a clown.
Bozo the clown.
Oh, he would always be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?
Are you
Shut
dumb?
up." Yeah.
Shut up. You're such a stupid bitch. And I'm not afraid to say it because I feel like I've lived it for 7 years. And I think the prime example of where I knew this was going down a really dangerous road was we agreed to meet up, and we met up in Oakland, and we were in the car, and I just talked to Claudia maybe like a couple hours ago, and Evelyn knew I was going. And we decided that we were going to, go to the hotel, have a good time, chill, have some drinks, just have a good time. We didn't see each other in a year and a half because we broke up again because I just didn't want to deal with him. And he started mixing margaritas in the back of my car. And I stupidly let him get in the front seat and still drive my car because, one, he's 5.5 years older than me, so I never want to argue with him because he's also like twice my size. So, I just never want to get into fights with him, and I just felt like that's the manipulation. Like, this is my freaking car, and I
felt scared.
I felt scared to say, no, you can't drive the car. Like, this is my car. And I knew an argument was going to happen, and I didn't want the first time that we've seen each other in a year and a half to get into arguments. But as we were driving, it's like the Holy Spirit, I feel like, has a way of just coming in and just calming you down in situations. And so I was sitting in the front seat, literally crying, tears coming down my face, because I just instantly felt like all the abuse that you hear people going through, it was being played out as I was driving into San Francisco. Someone is drinking alcohol in the front seat of my car, and I don't have the wherewithal to say, stop it, pull over to the side of the road. So I calculated in my mind that we were going to stop. And then when we stopped, they said, give me my keys. Mm-hmm. And I was going to drive my car for the rest of this trip that we had. And I instantly felt not even embarrassed, but I felt so sad that I have missed out on 7 years of a beautiful life that I could have had because I was so caught up with keeping up with my friends and having this feeling like, as a Black girl, knowing there's not very many options available out there. So this is the best that I've got, and let me make the best of the situation that I know how. And I feel like growing up, I never had like this relationship with my parents where like you can openly talk about like your love life and about like how you're feeling about a guy hurting your feelings or him saying these weird things. And like, especially like in the Christian community, like God forbid you even say you want to have sex, it's like World War V. Like, what do you mean? And you're like, wait a minute, hold on, it's a natural part of life, and if you don't want to know about it, I'm still going to toot it and boot it, and you're just not going to know. And I feel like that's a defiant stage that I was going through. And so I never really had that. So it's kind of weird for me to see Claudia have that relationship with her mom, where she could call her mom and her mom be knowing all the shenanigans, be down for all of the tea, always wanting to know about our lives. And so for me, I kind of just nosy. And then me and Claudia gets mad because,
they know me too well.
And
I hate it.
And we talk a lot about Claudia.
So what I do is I just don't answer their calls sometimes because I don't want to hear it because I already know what they're going to say.
She ignores me a lot of the time. And then the thing is, she'll get mad when I tell her the truth, and she'll be like, ugh. You could hear her rolling her eyes. Like, you can't even... Like
now?
Like, literally, like, to the ceiling. She'll ignore me, and sometimes she doesn't call me for days because she feels like I'll go away. But then I pop right back up with the same advice.
Like
just on a different day. Like, boom. The time I go down, the time I come back up. But I feel like, being a person of color, like, there's so many girls that I know that know they're in really bad relationships, know this guy is not treating them right, know that there is someone out there for them, and you feel so scared to vocalize that, to say, like, I'm scared to be alone. I am not scared to be alone. I'm just scared that I'm always going to be alone. Right. If that makes sense. Being alone is fine. I work 2 jobs and I work 80 hours a week. And my boss asked me to go and get drinks this weekend. And I was like, I can't, girl. I got to make up for the time that you have me out here stressed out. And so I feel like it's just being scared of being alone. And Evelyn knows that. I feel like Evelyn and I have this really powerful conversation on what was that, Saturday? When I called her, one of my friends is having a baby. And I feel like I'm a super generous person. Maybe a little too generous. And I called her and I was like, I'm not going to go into details, but I was just very sad. Like, you're watching every single one of your friends hit milestones. Like, they're getting married. They're getting engaged. They're having babies. They're living their lives. They're buying houses. And you're like, oh my God, like,
What the fuck am I doing?
what am I doing? Like, you know what I mean? And then I think, wow, I spent 7 years in a toxic relationship and now have to spend the rest of my life in therapy to make up for losing my self-worth and my self-value because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses in society and trying to make myself seem like, almost make myself feel like I'm attractive. But I know that I'm attractive to myself, but I feel like we all want that acceptance from humanity rather than having that acceptance within ourselves. And so we prepare our bodies a lot of the time as girls. We'll have sex, we'll do things we know we don't want to do. We'll prepare our bodies, but we won't prepare our minds to be in like solid relationships with people and get right with ourselves. We go from men to men, women to women, guys as well. And they don't take that time and that period to like be like, why did I do this? How did I get in this situation? And how can I prepare myself to be in a better situation the next time around?
Yeah.
Maybe society is the new daddy issues. Society issues.
Yeah.
I think we do.
And I feel like as women, we get way more pressure to make decisions. Like this morning, my mom called me. She's like, Claudia, I think it's time you should start having kids.
Oh, God.
I'm like, not on $16.50 an hour, I'm not.
Like, no. And it's just like, I feel like it's just.
So
like,
my point is that there's a lot of pressure from family, friends. Why aren't you at this stage of your life? You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, I had this powerful conversation with my aunt before she called me a couple of days ago, and we're very close, and she lives in Texas, and we're just talking about like God's timing. And I feel like a lot of the time we try to move faster than where like God really wants us in that moment. Like sometimes he allows bad things to happen to us, I feel like, so that we can learn a lesson in that. But if you don't take the time to value the bad at that time, how are you ever going to be able to experience the good in the good times and be able to value that and know when it's good?
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
I think that builds maturity.
Yeah. I think you have to go through really bad things, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes, there's lots of, I would say, ethnic children that are living all around the world who identify with, I feel like white parents are very different than ethnic parents.
I think so, too.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like white parents, they talk to their kids about everything. So their kids, I feel like, are like mentally prepared to deal with like
more things.
Well, they're also like, let's not even go into the politics of like, being colonizers and stuff, We'll drop the shade for another day. But they're prepared to handle life emotionally on a different level than ethnic parents. Ethnic parents, I feel like, only have tunnel vision for one thing, and that's education. But when the education is over, then what happens?
Yeah. I feel like also another thing is they treat their sons and daughters differently.
Absolutely.
I mean, at least in my case.
Go on.
Well, for me, I had rules, a lot of rules that you can't go out during these hours. I need to know who you're with, who your friends, like all these things. But my brothers, they could do no wrong, and they can do whatever they wanted. They can go out and party all night. They could bring girls home. They can do literally whatever they wanted. And me and my sister, it was not that story. It was a totally different story. It was very strict. Like, they would make us focus more on education and no boys. You can't talk to boys. You have to like be this perfect kid. You need to learn how to cook. You need to learn how to clean properly. Like, I'm telling you, when I was like, I want to say I was like 11, they had me do this thing where I would wake up and I'd ask like my siblings, like, what do you guys want for breakfast? And I'd make each one of my siblings whatever they wanted for breakfast.
Wow.
Like, and then that's another thing. It's like when people ask me, when are you going to have children? Like all these things. I'm like, I am the eldest daughter in an immigrant household. I have already raised a bunch of kids, you know? And I feel like the eldest daughters, they have so much more responsibility in their homes because, well, when you're an immigrant, because you need to learn how to like maintain a house and go to school and take care of your siblings and do all these things. And I don't know. It's just, I feel like white parents don't have that.
No, and white parents are very like, the way Claudia and her mom are is like how a lot of, I feel like, white kids are with their parents, right?
Really?
The kids can just come home and be like, yo, mom, I did crack today. And I wouldn't say that every white parent is going to be like, go, Jimmy, just go ahead and snort it. But I do feel like a lot of them would be like, why'd you make that choice, Jimmy?
No, at first, like in high school, my mom did not tolerate that behavior. But I definitely acted out. And as I gotten older, like, it was easier just to be honest. She already knew. I didn't even have to tell her anything.
Yeah, but she also respects you at that stage where I feel like immigrant parents, they don't ever respect you. And it's like,
I will say with my dad's family, it's all the way strict. You shouldn't be doing that. You need to do this. You need to do that. I'm like, ugh.
But I feel like if you never go through some rough times, how are you ever going to be equipped to be able to help anybody else? It's like pastors' kids. I'm a huge Christian, like kind of a Jesus freak almost. Evelyn hears me worshiping as I'm driving because I literally, life is so stressful. But I always think about like the perfect pastor's kids, you know? They never make a mistake, or so we know. You know what I mean? And like the pressure is like, I can't, like, even talking about sex is like World War V. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, it's a natural part of life. But how are you ever going to be able to give advice or be able to help your friends or to be able to intervene in a situation if you've never been through it?
And you can't understand them.
No. So then you judge. That's why you ask Claudia, what could you do as a friend? Yes. But if you've never been through it, then how do you know how to step in and say, this is what you're going through. I wish that some of my friends would have pulled me aside and been like, wake up, sis.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why we're doing this episode and this podcast in general.
Yeah, to help someone. You know, I don't want to move to New York with the big rats. And, you know, and I feel like now that I've identified what I've gone through, I don't know about you guys. Well, Claudia could attest this because she's in a relationship. I feel like now I'm just hoping that there's somebody out there that will be the complete opposite of this individual, that will treat me with respect and appreciate me for just being crazy and fun and nice and psychotic and loving to spend a coin that's not mine, picking up my credit card bills. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, I just feel like, you know, that's what you hope for in a relationship. So when you met your boyfriend, did you feel a sense of relief or did you feel sadness in a way? And if you're listening, she still loves you.
What do you mean? What do you mean sadness or relief?
I feel like even though you're in a toxic relationship, right, the love that you had for somebody to withstand that type of abuse, you love them.
Yeah.
And to be in a different relationship with somebody means that you're letting go of that, the toxic love, to try to accept that there is a different love out there. And sometimes I think humans, we are more attracted to the negativity than we are the positive.
Yeah. I think for me, I went through both. I think for me, when I was finally in a relationship with someone who respected me and loved me for who I was and is everything you would want in a relationship, it did make me sad to think like, wow, I really put up with a lot of things that I did not deserve, that was not healthy. And it kind of breaks you down, and for me, that has been my own emotions that I've had to deal with. But at the same time, I feel very relieved and grateful that like I finally get to have a chance to have a relationship and develop it over time and make it something that I want. Because I feel like with my toxic relationship, it moves so fast, so quick. Like, whereas this one, I feel like it's going to grow and prosper over time. And it's going to strengthen and it's going to grow. And Yeah, in the beginning, and even like sometimes I do like get a little sad. Like I said, we're going back on those memories. Like we've had so many memories together. We went to so many countries, and I'm like, wow, like I said, I have to block that person out, but like keep those memories. But at the same time, I have hope that even though I had these experiences with somebody else, I can still have amazing experiences with this person too.
Yeah, and I feel like we just all have to remind ourselves that like life is really hard. And you might be judging your friend secretly in your room for what they're going through. Because I have friends like that. I have a friend, I won't say their names. There's multiple. They judge me because I started to want what positivity you see in a relationship with with this toxic person. I wanted the kids and the family. And I remember one friend was like, well, you shouldn't have kids with him. You should have kids by yourself. And I was like, if that's so wonderful and great, then why don't you ditch your man and let's go and get sperm donors together and raise them and let's see how fun that is. And I just remember like in that moment realizing that like people would rather see you down and out sometimes and not be able to really just vocalize being a true friend and saying, I really love you and it really breaks my heart that you would want to have a kid with this person knowing that they're nuts. You know, and putting yourself in that situation rather than judging somebody because you're better than me now because you have a great relationship, right? So it's like those little things that like you have to like remember. Those are the people you have to like leave because they're not understanding that like life is a process and you grow. And you grow to love somebody. You don't fall in love with them. And the best relationships are the people who understand that like I'm not going to like you today. And tomorrow I might love you. And next day I might be able to make you some tacos. And then we're going to go back to hating each other. And then
being annoyed.
And being annoyed, yeah. And I feel like if we all, like, came together as friends, as men, as women, guys should get together more and talk about toxic relationships and about how...
yeah, because women are guilty of the same behavior.
We cheat, we behave badly, we curse our men out. Like, why don't you have a damn better job? You see Becky over there driving Mercedes and I'm driving a Honda, and like that would totally be me. You know, I'm petty like that. Like, she cannot show up to the club in a better car than me because what are you doing? And so I feel like we're all, like women, men, we're all toxic, but I feel like men don't show their vulnerabilities with their friends. If they got together more and talked as men and said, how are you doing? Like, how's your girl? She annoying? You know what I mean? Let's talk. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's not a bad thing for you to be like, I don't like her today. And damn it, I'm really struggling to be with her. I saw Becky over there in the office looking like a fine piece of wine, and I was really tempted today to go and have some. And knock, knock, who's there? Yo, new baby daddy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if men talked more openly about their feelings with other men, they could help each other be less toxic and have more successful relationships and stop getting such a bad rep with women that all men are just low lives who just cheat. You know what I mean? And I feel like you only meet, like, at this point, I feel like I should marry a 60-year-old man because at this point, they've gone through all of the stages that are necessary that, like, now I know you're going to treat me right. You know what I mean? But, like, when you meet a 20-year-old, you're like, damn it, like, I'm taking my chances on this man. Like,
fresh out
the womb. Like, you don't even know what time it is. You know what I mean? But if they had guy friends that came together like girls, we talk about everything in our relationships. Men would be I'd be very hard pressed to find a girl who doesn't tell her best friend every little detail about the relationship. We will never tell you that we're talking about everything from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. We're not going to let you know that, but our friends know what we know. You know what I mean? And so it's like if they were more honest with each other, we wouldn't be in less toxic relationships and be in such a better place as human beings. And if we learned not to incorporate toxic relationships in our lives, we could demand better in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely.
In our relationships, in our friendships, in our family dynamics, in the workplace. we would be able to be so much stronger as human beings, be like, I'm not going to put up with this. This is what my worth is, and this is how you're going to treat me, no matter the color of my skin, no matter my sexual orientation, no matter my religion. You're going to respect me. You're going to do right by me. And I feel like we're just not there yet.
But we're on our way.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I feel like some days I'm just really stressed to see if it's really going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many girls. Like, you just got out of one like a year and a half ago. I just got out of mine a month ago. Like, finally. There should be an applause in there. Like, go, Nia, go. Go, Nia, go. No, I'm only kidding. We'll see. But I feel like, you know, I just want more guys, if you're listening out there, to, like, talk to your guy friends about things.
Google toxic masculinity and see if that applies to you.
Yeah. Are you literally challenged by the fact that your girlfriend might make more money than you? Mm-hmm. Or might be a better provider in different areas of your relationship that you might need to be in? But if you understand your strengths as a man or a woman, then you can bring that to the relationship and it can still be successful and powerful and amazing. You don't have to live by the standards of what society is telling you to do. I fell in love with an Indian guy.
We got to save that for the next episode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a saga.
If you're listening,
I'm watching you. I'm just kidding.
or calling.
Oh, goodness.
Ring-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, boom. Okay, but yes. So we're leaving you guys today. That was just our little advice to people about doing better, getting better, and just talking to your friends about the honest truth.
Yes.
Checking on your kids.
Yep.
Checking on your loved ones.
Your friends.
Yep. You never know what people are going through, and you don't want to be writing RIP in the middle of a global pandemic where everyone is losing their bananas, especially the president who's holding Goya beans like he's Mexican and eats refried beans at night. But with that, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.